Unemployment up a hair, 3.9 to 4.0%, but jobs still hot. 272,000 jobs added. The estimates were for 190,000. The market's not digging it in the early going here. So let's welcome on and say hi to Mark Falter, Retirement Income Hour, Saturday, Sunday mornings at 9 on KCMO. And then, of course, Mid-America Wealth Advisory Group. All right, Mark, you saw the reports this morning. You see the market reaction. What do you make of it?
Oh, I think it's going a little hotter than expected. You'd think the markets would be up, wouldn't you? But overall, we had a dip in April in the S&P, but now it's kind of back to all-time highs. NVIDIA is driving a lot of it right now. NVIDIA is hot with their AI and all that stuff, but markets overall doing good. Great time for pre-retirees and retirees 3 to 5 years out and in retirement to reallocate. Now is a great time to be taking some money off the table. Mm-hmm. Those losses from April came back. But, yeah, the jobless market is we're hiring. I know that we've been hiring all year, but, it's a lot more, a little bit more unemployment. I don't want to say a lot more unemployment out there, but some.
Well, okay, so absolutely. When you look at the market itself, NVIDIA is a huge driver of this. I saw this yesterday. NVIDIA is up 6% here in the last couple of days. They're, pushing $1,200 a share. They're up 155% in 2024 alone. They've added $1.8 trillion in market cap. NVIDIA's added as much market cap as the entire value of Amazon in just 6 months.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's nuts. So, if people say the economy is great because the stock market is great, well, the big tech stocks are driving it, and NVIDIA is the biggest driver right now by a mile, right? There's some danger here to have this market really rallying because of one single stock.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And that's what I want. That's what I spend the weekends trying to tell people, is that don't be deceived just because the market as a whole looks like it up. It's coming from a handful of companies. Now, if you're a young person, it might be a good idea to invest in some of those companies. However, as you're getting closer to retirement, don't be deceived, because that doesn't mean the entire market is up. And you take those 2 or 3 companies out, you take Apple out, you take Microsoft out, I'm telling you what, it's a whole different S&P 500.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Mark. I don't know if you're going to like this or not, but let me just ask you, because I see this getting talked about in social media circles. Apple stock. Is Apple stock still a growth stock, or is it really at the point where it's kind of this mature stock that's no longer viewed as one of these high growth opportunities?
I'll tell you what, it's always a semi-risk when you make a call like that, and if you come back wrong. But that is one company I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I have done everything humanly possible to drive their stock up, from buying every product they have to investing in their stock personally. And no, I think that's a definitely good long play. It's kind of like Microsoft. Microsoft and Apple, they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay.
As soon as you see people not having iPhones, then we got a problem. But literally, if you go around any given table, it's 50, 60, 70% of the people. You can tell when you're doing the texting on your Mac, on the phone you can't tell, but you can tell whether they got an iPhone or not. Everybody's got an iPhone now, and that's their mainstay.
Yeah. I don't trust anybody with the green bubbles. That's just me, though.
I'm telling you.
You got a green bubble. You got to earn my trust. He is Mark Falter, Retirement Income Hour, Saturday and Sundays at 9 on KCMO Talk Radio. So what about the Fed, Jerome Powell, and how they react to this jobs report, if at all?
I don't think they're going to do a lot to react to this jobs report. I do think it's not any rocket science to call that they're going to cut rates. We know they're going to cut rates. He said that. The $64,000 question is when. My guess, I think September. I don't think it's coming in July. But I could be wrong. That's an educated guess, but I just don't think he's going to stop it right now. The economy's running hot, but not near as hot as it was when you and I were talking a year ago, and it was hyperinflation, 7-8%. It was nuts. It's not that bad now.
Well, you still think at 3.5% inflation, which is almost double where they want it to be, and a red-hot jobs market, they're going to cut rates 2 months before the election?
I think it's a possibility, yes.
Wow.
I will say this. If they don't, they're going to obviously punt it into next year. I don't think we'll see it in July. That's kind of my point. I don't think we're going to see it in July. I think there's a possibility we could see it in September, and they may very well punt it into next year. Now, in theory, Fed is not supposed to be left or right. They're supposed to be neutral. But my mother-in-law went to her grave saying that was not true.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's there's not. They shouldn't care about an election, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, well, exactly right. All right. So then what about, I saw this on Bloomberg this morning as the news was breaking on this jobs report, and basically they're still trying to figure out what this means for the economy at large, where it's a good jobs report, but, all evidence and all surveys show people still generally don't feel good about the economy at large, and the consumer confidence remains down. So how should we analyze where this economy is at large?
Let's put it this way. I think the economy is better than it was 2 years ago and a year ago. And I don't think it's as good as it could be going. And you know what? The one thing I don't want people to get caught up in, and it happens every year, it's just almost like saying, trying to defy gravity, but try not to get caught up in election year, because a lot of people are listening on the show today is they're scared Biden's going to get reelected. And there's a strong possibility that's going to happen. And but I always remind people that, hey, I'm not saying pro or con Biden, but look at the last 4 years. For retirees, hadn't been bad at all. Hadn't been bad at all for retirees.
Well, I think about that, and just you mentioned earlier in the conversation, Mark Falter, the retirees, it has not been bad for. Those approaching retirement, it's a very good time for them to reallocate. Basically, if you do not have, like my situation, young kids or kids running around the house who eat more food than you can realize, and you're not buying a lot of groceries, you're doing all right, right? It's more the younger people, and I think, not to tie the politics into it, but you're seeing more dissatisfaction with the current political climate amongst younger people, which is surprising compared to older people because of how this economy is affecting them, right?
Well, very much so, because they're borrowing money. And now I tell you what, though, I could go on for quite a long time as to why these rates that we're at right now, I would actually like to see them stay here. Because you got to remember, we were kind of in a weird situation where we were at zero for 20-some plus years. We're actually where we should be. I think we were way higher than we should be as far as inflation back a year or so ago. But right now, it's not a bad place to say. 5-7% mortgage is not horrible. It is not a 2% mortgage, but 2% was just incredibly low. And there's problems that could happen when things are too low. You are teetering on deflation, and deflation is worse than inflation. And so we never have went there as a country. But look at Japan. Things can go backwards, and backwards is worse than it being too high.
Mark Falter on KCMO. Where do you see this housing market, by the way, moving ahead? Because when you look at every metric, with interest rates, with insurance skyrocketing, the cost of just maintaining your house has also gone up tremendously. What does the housing market look like going forward?
I got to tell you, if there's anything that puzzles me the most, it's that it's going forward. It is going to continue to go forward. And I think it's slowed some. If you ask any real estate agent that's seasoned, they're going to tell you sales are slower than they were because you got a 7% mortgage. But, yeah, I just cannot believe it has not slowed worse. And I'll tell you what's really blows my mind is farmland. I own a couple of farms, and it is incredible how farmland is going up, and it just won't stop. And it's like, how? Well, a lot of that is 1031 money, but even in the houses, I think there's a lot of 1031ing going on there, too, that is allowing people to move money from, well, I guess technically it's not a 1031, but still they're able to move money tax-free from house to house, and that's probably allowing them to do some of what they're doing. But I just can't believe that home sales are still going, and the remodeling of homes is still going strong,
Well, yeah, I think that's a labor supply issue, too, as much as anything else. We just... Yeah. The shortage in the trades right now, so they can keep charging a pretty penny, even if things have slowed down a hair. The demand is still big for folks in that space. So very weird times, and Mark Falter's making sense of all of it, Mark. Thanks so much, my friend.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
We will talk to him, of course, soon, and you'll be listening to him tomorrow morning and Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, Retirement Income Hour on KCMO Talk Radio and Mid-America Wealth Advisory Group right here in Kansas City.